Eduardo. Good morning. This is May 11th, and we're recording the sixth episode of the Water Lobby podcast. How's your day been so far?
My day has been great. I woke up early over the weekend. I bought a new bed frame and I put it together. So I'm really happy with my craftsmanship. May 11th, a Sunday, is Mother's Day. So celebrate all of the mothers out in the world, even all the plant mamas. So thank you
And
all very much. Happy Mother's Day.
I've been celebrating Mother's Day for the last 24 hours because the Spanish Mother's Day was on May 10th. So it's still going on for me. It's more like a Mother's weekend for us.
Yes, to go on a bit of a tangent, yeah, we celebrated yesterday um at my mother and my tia's house, and we celebrate today as well with some dinner. And I was thinking about Father's Day because I'm a father, it's not my day, so of course I'm going to think about it. And it's only one day. So Mother's Day gets 2 days and Father's Day gets one day. That's cool.
Okay.
What's your Latino background?
So my wife is Hispanic. She is from El Salvador. I mean, her family is from El Salvador. They moved to US in the 70s or 80s, and then I think 70s. And yeah, she was born and raised in Dallas, and we are now living in Austin. But her mother-in-law, she keeps coming for occasions like these, so we get to celebrate with her. Mother's Day did a whole day around Barton Springs, the big water feature in Austin, and also, just having fun, eating nice food, going for a run on the Ladybird Lake, just, spending the whole day around water. It was really, really great.
That's fantastic to hear. That's beautiful stuff. And yes, you're right. Moving on. This is our sixth episode. What do we have in the agenda for today, Sanjay? And
Yeah,
thank you.
so I posted the agenda actually in our LinkedIn group, which is called the Water Lobby, and a few members have joined without us like giving any advertisement on it. And yeah, the agenda is kind of being very centric around data centers, water usage, and around some of the conflicts in water and how water is being weaponized. So without further ado, let's talk about data centers, right? We all know that data centers consume a large amount of water, and Colorado developers are planning data center on 1,500 Central Texas acres, and there are many more developments that are happening all around Texas in data centers. There are expected to actually there might be currently 300 plus data centers in Texas, and this thing is booming. So, Eduardo, how much do you know about like the data center water usage? Especially you're from San Antonio, and we know like San Antonio area is just being all enclosed or surrounded by data centers all around the neighborhoods and everywhere. Do you have some uh, ideas on how does it feel like to be a homeowner next to a data center? Or
I know next to nothing about data centers, even though I'm surrounded and will become more surrounded by them apparently. And I'm also learning that they use up massive amounts of water. Is that what you said? How do they use them and how much? And where's that water coming from? I'm an
yeah,
engineer and I don't know these answers. Can you kind of clarify some of the issues you think are very critical?
I wouldn't say critical, but I would yet we'll talk about it and during the podcast and we'll see how critical I am. But I'm more about like it's a big problem and every problem needs an engineered solution, right? So data center by default has to be built next to a river or a creek. One of the main reason being it consumes a lot of water and then it has to discharge that water somewhere. And the closer you are to the creek, the easier it is for you to discharge that water. Um, if you're so traditionally, the creeks of Texas or anywhere in the country have been used for building homes, right? Because homeowners like to live next to a creek. Like that was my personal preference when I was looking for a house. Is like I really wanted a house next to a creek. It was really hard. Did not get it, but the community, so that land next to the creek is highly valuable, but value or money is not the biggest issue for the data center manufacturers or the owners who are like the big five: Google, Nvidia, Tesla, Microsoft, Facebook, Apple. They all have massive data centers all over the world. And I saw one video recently which was called "I live next to a data center," or created by Mark Zuckerberg. It's like I live 400 yards from Mark Zuckerberg's massive data center. It's on YouTube, and the premise is that the person bought their home thinking they're living next to this beautiful creek or like empty land, but it massive construction started happening, and even though data centers are mostly uninhabited, like they are just lines of GPUs, they still have a lot of noise, and they have a lot of construction problems, and they have all the light pollution, the dust, because you're turning this lush green area near a floodplain into this dirty I would say impervious area, right? And data centers, they heat up really fast because the GPUs. So consider this, Eduardo. You have your laptop, and you can touch the surface of your laptop or underneath your laptop, and you'll feel some heat, and it's definitely a little bit hotter than um, anywhere else in your room. Like you can touch any surface in your room and touch the underneath your laptop, and you can feel that there's like 5 to 10 degree difference there. And imagine that at scale, and the scale we're talking about 500,000 GPUs, a million GPUs, 10 million GPUs, and it's never ending scale. So just like traditional capitalism is just trying to expand itself to infinity. So imagine all these computers generating a lot of heat, and the only way to
Is
cool
this a
the
data center?
yes, that's one. That's I would say 0.001% of a data center. It looks like some GPU chips.
Yeah, it goes for like three
Yeah.
rows.
Yeah, that's a big data center. Yeah. So that is one example. And then, these data centers are bigger and bigger, and they get into as much land as they can. Then you need water to cool down your. So for your laptop, there is a fan running, but for these massive data centers with large GPUs, and chains of GPUs, they need water to circulate, which will, as soon as it actually touches some of these coils, it just vaporizes. There's so much heat that we're talking, and
Mhm.
that water, which is warmer. So if you can also, like, there are issues with discharging warm water into the creek because it disturbs the ecological
It
balance
kills
of
it. Yeah, it kills
yeah, it
everything.
kills it. And basically, and there could be some pollutants like from lithium discharge or something. But that being said, um, data centers do bring a lot of employment opportunities, at least during the construction phase. Then they bring a lot of tax revenue for the cities. For example, I learned recently that the city um, next to Austin, it's I'm forgetting the name, but so there is Taylor, Texas, right? So imagine Taylor, and then next to Taylor, Texas, there is a Samsung facility, which is a massive Samsung data center and a fab where they're going to manufacture chips. And then there is a city next to it. Um, so the entire value of that city, like if you value every single house, it's around $4 billion, every single thing. And that data center alone is valued worth more than $6 billion. So, it brings a lot of opportunities for cities to tax and, then further provide services to their customers. But in that being said, the residents in our industry, in the water industry, they're called ratepayers. So there is a rate associated with energy, there is a rate associated with the cost of 1,000 gallon water. And the ratepayers have been, paying a certain amount, let's say $50 a month for their water based on their particular consumption. Some would be paying like $100 a month. But when this finite resource, in the sense of like, for a city, we have water rights and they cannot extract more than that, right? So in that sense, when they ex when they have to redistribute some of this water to these data centers, then the ratepayers get affected directly because they're not being subsidized. Instead, they're being overcharged because, for example, in city of Austin, the higher water you consume, the more you have to pay. But not every city has that, policy. And as this resource becomes scarce, the cities are required to then build bigger wastewater infrastructure. They are required to build bigger and larger water infrastructure, buy up water rights, build dams, and all this process of like, trying to increase the amount of water that they have, it is capital intensive. There's billions of dollars that has to be invested by the city, not the data center company. The data center company is just like buying that parcel and they're buying the water from the mud or the city, and it's the city's responsibility to like bring all this water to them. And traditionally, all the cities around that area, they were told like, hey, this amount of water that you have, it's going to last you another 100 years, or like you're not need more water than this. So they didn't plan for all this growth, and now they're being they're being kind of, I don't know if it's forced, but willingly, or because they want to attract that investment from massive data center operators or companies, they are going to be overcharging or just increasing the rate for some of these homeowners. So if you're paying used to pay like $100 a month, you could be paying up to 400, $500 a month just for your water, just for your energy. So given the paycheck is not increasing for a lot of us, having to pay 10% of our paycheck just for utility, that's a big concern, I think. And that's where engineering has to come in, probably make these data center use less water, make them self-sufficient so that they can cool and heat it. But all these water energy nexus, this is very interesting. And some of the states other than Texas, they already have been enacting laws which, for example, I think there's North Carolina bill SB 24 where ratepayers could be forced to pay more. And some of the time, another interesting thing is like even if the city wants the ratepayers to be subsidized, and they want to, they went with the goodwill of their heart, they want the cost of water and energy to go down. But these statewide laws, they're going to force them to basically put all the cost of these massive infrastructure projects on back onto ratepayers, and that's us. So, how much do you now know about this data center boom and about water and the criticalness of this, and what how do you feel about this, Eduardo?
Yeah, it seems like it's a pretty niche world with a big impact on the ratepayers. And thank you so much for explaining that in a way that was very articulate and informed. Because, like I said, I don't keep up with these types of kind of landscaping changes. Like these are cultural changes because we all want internet and keep up with the information revolution that's happening that we live in. We live in a very highly um, technical, really electrified grid, at least in Central Texas. Um, and this issue of water, the intersection of water with like internet security, of being a first world country, but then also tied with economics of just wanting to buy a home, paying for, if you're a mother, you're paying for childcare as well, which is also a price that's increasing. You're paying for food, which is becoming more expensive because the climate is becoming more harsh to our vegetation programs in our agriculture. Um, and it's related to water, and it's related to avocado prices. So thank you so much for kind of highlighting this aspect of water usage by big corporations like Samsung, like Oracle. Um, what's the Mark Zuckerberg
Meta.
company? Meta. And these are, I used to have a roommate who worked for Meta as a content filter. And that's also related to like, that job is tough. Being a Meta content filter, that will mess you up bad. And so even we need resources. It's related to like the emotional support, like just your emotional health is even involved in water, these random water fights on the news, because Meta employs people that kind of filter the the culture, people's voices before they even filter the news before they get to you. So it's like a whole cultural program there. And what I know about it, from my perspective, I am a Central Texas water resources engineer, and I work for the government. And the tools that we as individual engineers are given are limited, to the budgets that we have, to the project jurisdictions that we work on. The issue that you're talking about is interjurisdictional. And me as an engineer that works within a particular tax um, boundary, taxation boundary, jurisdiction boundary, I can't provide my services on the clock to other jurisdictions unless I'm put in some type of representative role, or unless I'm doing this type of lobbying with you, which is outside of the regular economics of our work. So this work is difficult to perform at the office because it's interjurisdictional. And capitalism will never fund interjurisdictional work. Capitalism will never fund interdisciplinary work, because the way that capitalism succeeds is through a process of reduction. And what it reduces is into specific silos where you don't get to talk in interdisciplinary ways. You don't get to talk in ways that are developmental. You don't get to talk in ways that are progressive, because the way capitalism is destroying this government is through the process of reduction, through the process of isolation, through the process of this is what you're supposed to do, and everything else is misalignment with the goals of this administration. And what I'm trying to say is that we've been reduced to our core functions, and the way to proceed and engulf new problems like this one, because this is a brand new problem. We have 500 data centers that have yet to be constructed or in the process of being permitted, will probably be permitted. And the way we tackle that problem when it arrives is to engulf it before it blows up. And the way you engulf something is to web out and encircle it with every type of professional you can. But right now we're isolated, we're reduced to our core functions, and kind of to speak on the future topic,
Yeah.
the federal government used to serve that function of providing the funding to work in a proactive an interdisciplinary and almost futuristic type of way because we would have time for analysis. We don't even have time for analysis anymore. Is that something that is that a similar experience that you've had
Yeah.
where before I had time to like look at alternatives, try to find consensus and the best plan forward, plan it out and do it. That was like it took a little bit of time, but at least in my case, because I'm a competent person,
Yeah.
I would provide, tangible solutions. Right now, the tangible, at least metric I would like to see is what what could limit the amount of consumption to the data center or to the ratepayer, because we have seen cities run out of water. That's in the news. So when we run out of water, who's going to run out of water first? That's the societal component, is when we begin to negotiate. Negotiating is being in a democratic kind of culture, we need to get to the negotiating table to know that our at least natural resources haven't been depleted without anyone being aware of that. So yeah, when things are going to deplete, we want to know when. That's how we can start to have a real conversation. Do you think we're going to run out of water, or
So
nah, we're not there yet?
I have 2 points. So first, when you said running out of water and who's going to run out first, my mind immediately raced to the people who live in Central Valley in California, where they're basically watering almond plants, and there is no water for people who are living there, and they have to truck water in for them for even a shower. So, and second, it ran to the people who live in Rio Grande Valley and they who live in colonias, and they also don't have access to the best water infrastructure. And then Dripping Springs, where the people have kind of put a stop on growth. There's no more like Walmart or Target coming in
Oh yeah.
because they just don't have that, rights to basically discharge water in Onion Creek. Uh, for they have I guess they are allowed to build a wastewater treatment plant, but they can't discharge that water into Onion Creek yet, and because of that, development has stopped. And there are many more instances of this. But the second point I wanted to come at was like the permitting point you brought up. And right now in America, I can safely say very um, very safely that people who want to build a single family home in less than an acre of land will take them around 2 to 3 years to get their permits, but a data center permit is getting published in 6 months
Mm.
or less. So that says a lot about our priorities, like people like us who want to just build a home, a shed. They just want to put together few pieces of wood in their backyard. It's going to take them longer to get their permits than it would take a data center, which is a massive facility, hundreds of acres, um, to get all their permits. So that's just mind blowing, and I don't think a lot of people will be able to comprehend that. At least people who are just not associated with water sector or construction in general. But that being said, let's move on to our next hot topic. So, in there has been a war going on between India and Pakistan for the last 1 week, and the first thing that kind of became really hot was the Indus Waters Treaty, and the treaty basically is about the eastern and rivers where certain billion cubic meters of water is 41 is given to India, and 99 billion cubic meters of water is given to Pakistan. And right after the war started, India said like, "Hey, we are not going to acknowledge the treaty anymore." And that statement like that has a lot of repercussions. And after that, there's since the recent developments, India has opened the gates at some of the dams, and it's regulating, the rising water because it's kind of monsoon season there, so they have to discharge water. But uh, it's very interesting that uh, Time magazine also published an article saying that water is being weaponized in India-Pakistan conflict, and they talked about the fact that I mean, again, if you have to take it with a grain of salt on which news is correct or not, but uh, it is possibility that some missiles were or there was a threat of putting some of the missiles on some of the water infrastructure like dam, uh, which is very worrisome. So um, anything. So if like one of the Jhelum dams, if you know there is a risk of that being targeted. I think it can not just affect people who are living downstream, but it can affect the agriculture, water supply, and so many other things. It's not very easy thing to like just talk about, even at least for me. But I think we do have to kind of acknowledge that water is now you know political in nature, and there is real people's lives, at risk whenever we talk about any of this. And yeah, with that, how has how do you see this conflict, like raising issues about like not just political leadership, but leadership of uh, locals, the agencies, people who are supposed to keep this like Indus Valley Treaty, like people who are supposed to be in charge of these things. What does it say about it, Eduardo, in your mind?
Yeah, I typically don't get to learn about war, in person. I'm not in a war zone, so I cannot really comprehend anything about that. But there are books that kind of talk about how this is crazy. What do I do? I personally read the Laozi is like a Chinese ancient philosopher. He's got a book called The Book of the Way. And when I think about water being weaponized, or water being used in in a way to hurt people or to negotiate, and this is in the Book of the Way, it's like water is the substance that describes the flow of things, so it's kind of like the Tao, and water is, to me, is the Tao that people don't know, like what the heck's that. And so it's like a religious type of liquid. It's a kind of, it's a gift from, if God exists, it's a gift from God. So we spend a lot of our ingenuity to collect it, to clean it. In the first episode, I talked about, people die for this stuff. And we know how to clean it, and there's the water everywhere. So clean the dirty water so people don't have to die for it. And then to hear that people actually make missiles to kill the storage units that we use to save lives is downright evil. Um, and I think it hurts to hear that. And it just isn't right. Um, it's never okay. I don't think there is any circumstance that we can allow, that we can forgive, honestly. Like, it's unforgivable behavior to be so disloyal to the land that has provided this gift to us. I just think it's downright treasonous, it's betrayal, it's it's not productive. um I think that everyone knows that about war, but I don't know if they know that about water. And there is a relationship between life and death, and water kind of helps us figure that out. I just don't understand. I just simply don't understand. Um, it's stupid. Sorry.
I know. I mean, I want to acknowledge, that fact that, it made you cry, and it is, pretty, sad topic for me as well. While, I let you talk, get through your emotions and, definitely express them. I wanted to, bring another important fact into everyone's attention that people don't realize how sensitive the agriculture industry is and how sensitive uh, the overall food supply is, which we've seen through some of these trade issues that people or like funding cuts from USA that people are not getting food and stuff. But some of the like US, for example, it runs I think on a 1 year supply. So if for example, everything gets cut, US American people will have food for 1 year. But countries like India, Pakistan, third world countries, they run sometimes on a 1 month supply. Some maybe I don't know for sure, but Pakistan could be running on a 2 week supply. What does that mean? It means if and then the Indus Water Treaty and the amount of water that's being given to Pakistan, which we saw 90 billion cubic meters or something, that amount of water it contributes to about 70% of Pakistan's agriculture. And if you disrupt that for just one season, the crops are like even for a week, if the crops don't get water, they could possibly, die. You won't have the crops for the next season or like for the whole year. And countries which run on like a 2 week deficit for, food supply, something like that could be the one of the worst human disasters of all time. So I think we just hope that people who are in charge tread carefully with saying anything, doing anything, and just consider the lives that are at stake of people who are just trying to get by. um,
Yeah, I'll add that there's like a panoply of um, kind of conflicts around the world, like the Ukraine Russian war. There's a Israel Gaza Palestine conflict. There's this kind of ongoing conflict in India, Pakistan, between Mexico and America. Last time we spoke about this water that hasn't been um, delivered. And
and
I'm
since
trying
then,
to think of conflicts in South America,
so there
but
has been an
when it
update on
comes, what? Go ahead.
the update on India, Mexico, sorry, US Mexico one was, I think Mexico was now has said that they will provide the water one way or another. But yeah, just wanted to keep
Yeah, well,
update
but
that.
last week they declared a zone in El Paso to be like a conflict zone so that they could just start sending people to Libya or to disrupt habeas corpus. And so, like, while it doesn't really seem that Mexico is involved in any type of conflict, America is very much in a conflict with everybody. Um, and with Russia, with China, even with all these tariffs. And so to put numbers into perspective, the way I think about like the relationship between how many lives this is costing, there's this rule of three, which is like 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, or 3 weeks without food, and you start to have physical impairments on your body from not having the supply to your body. And so a body of water, like, sorry, a body needs about, what is it, like 200 milliliters of water if it's at rest, but maybe a, 5 times that if it's in motion, like if it's running away from a problem. So escaping a war zone has caloric and water needs that then get extinguished by a combative offensive force, and we need those dams for people to run away from conflict. you know? So when I say there's a panoply of conflict, it really is a war. You know, if you're attacking the natural resources, if you're affecting their emotional health based on news on the stuff, if you have boots on the ground that have people to run away, like this is a real war, despite what the news are saying. Like this is what we call a indirect, it's like indirect war or something like that. It's like this is real war. This is not just, you know, is war going on? No, this is actually happening all over. So that's kind of maybe a take. That's an opinion that war's going on, even though people are like, oh, maybe we're not at war. Because I know they are destroying bridges. Like that's where commerce comes in and out. That is a real situation.
And just like whenever a country, goes on a war and then it conquers, uh, most of the time in our civilization, we've seen libraries being destroyed. We've seen knowledge being, burned. Uh, with several examples, Rome has done it. Other big empires have done it, and the recent one is Federal Highway Resource Center. So it's a big, FHWA manages a lot of like manuals, steps, standard operating procedures, especially, you know, for 2D hydraulic modeling, saying that the person who was in charge of or who created the whole manual, he's being let go. So, there is a lot of like knowledge, I would say, or like library burning that's happening right now.
That's
Any
correct.
comment on that?
Yeah, one of the first things that happened in Gaza was the destruction of their universities. So they're gone. And then it was a destruction of their hospitals. So they're gone. And you know, and so now in America, we have the destruction of the Gulf of Mexico. Now it's the Gulf of America. In the University of Texas, they're going to open up a whole new college called the College of Civic Leadership, as if there wasn't one or two already at the university. Um, in the University of Columbia, right, they had to let go of whatever lawsuit they had against the president to protect their students. And so I guess on the topic of removing, yeah, guidance, like design guidance, that's part of the culture. That's part of the architecture of this nation. We have Federal Highway Administration was actually a tool by the Eisenhower administration to prepare for future war. In the 50s, one of my best friends, uncle, helped design Route 66. So that is a historical, attack on the really some of the intellectual property of America, because it's no secret that engineers are not pure mathematicians. We use empirical formulas throughout the years, through trial and error, through laboratories across universities. My alma mater, the University of Texas, works in close collaboration with the Texas Department of Transportation, with A&M, with Texas Tech, because we're all in it together. The highway system 35 right now in city council, they're considering removing the caps on them because they're too expensive. And so that I just say that to show that we're working on this together. If we had money, if we were not at war with ourselves, we would just put them on there. It wouldn't even be an issue. But because we have this kind of self-imposed, I don't know, we call it self-imposed. Uh, yeah, the self-imposed austerity is causing everyone to believe that everything's expensive, but I think we should be spending that money, not destroying ourselves. We should be spending our time, our economy, lifting each other up, helping stitch together the fabric of our, capacity. Like we're really, really smart. we're really, really educated, and we're prepared to fix the streets. So why are we just I mean, I don't know, but I think we shouldn't be destroying our own guidances. We've worked really, really hard on them. We're developing new guidance based on like the data centers that we hate, or I hate at least. The data centers make it possible for me to do my 2D simulations in HECRAS. And it's something I love. So it's kind of like you take the good with the bad, but let's not make the data centers obsolete by then destroying our own intellectual foundation.
Yeah.
Like, come on, let's put them to work. If we're gonna destroy all of our water resources, may as well make something beautiful out of it. I don't know, make the best out of the situation we have. But it's not just the Federal Highway Administration. Um, we also have FEMA that are not the same. But they're
Yeah,
both being in NOAA. They're not the same, but they're all being bombarded with these cut cost cutting goals, I think. Um, but each
yeah.
one's handling it
And
differently.
yeah, Homeland Security, somebody like said something and they get fired. So, it just I think pretty interesting that, some of these agencies they do have some kind of mandate to progress the president's agenda of like whoever the current president is. And I understand that, but at the same time, not being able to, voice your opinions within your agency that you've been working for several years. And if you say something, you have a risk of getting laid off. And I think that the new deputy chief that FEMA got, he said something like, "Hey, I know there are 20% of you who are going to try to stop us from like pursuing our agenda, and I would tell like I think it's some bluntly said that, hey, don't get in our way, something like that." And you, so
He said,
it's
"I will
just
run you over."
yes. So uh, it is pretty intense. I think, people, I think, just want to, be able to have a job, provide for their families, and at the same time, work on something that they truly want the mission of their life, and they don't want to be caught up in whatever, the admin changes and stuff. So those are very interesting times, I think. And speaking of, city of Austin, I don't know what's going on there, but they have a $30 million budget deficit right now, and they have a parking deficit. Something I don't know, understand how they get into a parking deficit with the people who, they've given parking tickets to. So they've been like giving out parking tickets for a while, and I get something about that they have too much, money that people owe them, and it is pretty crazy because I was at Pardon Springs yesterday, and the the machine that is for the collecting the parking dues, it was not working, and it was like black screen or something. And I was like, okay, maybe. And I've parked in Pardon Springs several times, so I don't. I mean, I don't understand when it's free, when it's paid parking, and the signs. There is a meme that like they keep putting a new sign like, hey, parking free 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then parking not free 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Parking free from when school is up in operation, parking not free when it's dark outside. Like, it's just too many signals, like too much noise. It's hard to comprehend. Like, I'm just trying to have a swim. I don't want to understand, like all the operations of parking lot. But I got a ticket yesterday. So, um, and they say it used to be $20. Now it's $50 parking ticket. And I don't know, but I think there is something that city need to prioritize. Like they can't be just taxing the people that live there and then additionally keep like I mean I'm already paying for the roads through my taxes and now you're making me pay for parking on that street and I, in it's your fault like you didn't have the machine in operation like and I believed that if the machine doesn't work you know you just no don't pay but like we'll see how it happens. I'm definitely going to contest that ticket and yeah, I'm a little upset with the city right now for giving me a $50 parking ticket.
That's
Um,
insane. $50.
I know. It almost like close to like a privatized rate. Like I feel like a private parking lot would probably charge less than $50 for parking, and it's the city that's, doing this.
Yeah,
And
I think you can test that pretty good if the machine was broken.
yeah, I mean,
You
I
know
feel
what
like
they're gonna tell you? They're gonna tell you, why don't you just do it on the app?
I know. I mean, like, just put a sign there that says that do it on the app. Like, for example, they have to
In any
put
case,
signs.
I agree with you. Why are we
Like,
paying for this?
yeah, I mean, they have to put some, like, you're already over bombarding us with all the different types of signs that are in construction zones. And, nobody likes them. But you could just put like a label saying, pay for parking on the app. Like if the machine's not working, like who's supposed to manage the asset of the city? The parking meter is a like city asset. It's not my personal property, so I'm
Can
not
you pay
supposed to
the
manage it.
ticket right now and then it'll go away or no?
I mean, I could pay it, but I don't think it's fair. I don't feel like it's fair to me, so I'm gonna contest it and see.
Yeah.
I'm all about fairness. Um, so. Yeah, this the water lobby is growing. We have subscribers, we have viewers. We want to eventually have guests on the show, uh, which will happen sooner, and we'll have I think really interesting people from the industry who will have really interesting things to say about it, and much more than I have sometimes. So. And then we also want to eventually have meetups, right, like in the you know at least in central Texas, probably elsewhere, based on where our listeners are. um, Eduardo, where do you see this thing going?
The water lobby.
Yeah.
Well, I'm an artist, so for me, every listener that becomes interested in these types of water conservation issues, I consider that part of my lobbying for water. Is that the more Texans, I hope, more Texans learn about Texan water, the more they will be invested in protecting it, in enjoying it. I believe it is a scarce resource. I don't know how much we have, but the more eyes on it we have on it, the more hope I will have. So where I take this water lobby is already there. This water lobby is already in a stage where I'm very, very happy with our work. Moving on, we will, I like the podcast's format. And if we are invited to speak on something, we will be delighted to share expertise. But at the moment, I feel that the growth of my industry is dependent not on us, but on our elected leaders in the Texas Ledge. So I would like to get people to volunteer on the Texas Water Day next year. If we can get signups for that as early as possible, that would be a big win for me. What do you think about that random ass suggestion?
I actually was there in the Capitol building on this year on Texas Water Day, but I only did the like last few hours where it's a conference kind of where there are speakers, there's a panel, and I listened to everything they were saying, uh, and I really like that they were going to. And now it's a bill that is being voted on, which is $1 billion per year for Texas Water Fund and $2.5 billion one time from all the budget surplus that the state has. And like, it's good to have budget surplus, and then you can spend that on things like water. And whereas city of Austin, shame, why are you in a budget deficit? Just like $30 million, like you should be in budget surplus. You're collecting too much property taxes right now. So yeah, I think next year, now that I've seen it a little bit, like how it works and what happens on the Texas Water Day, it would be really great if we can have some of our volunteers, listeners, and we can go and meet some of the representatives. There are a few I know, like they would love to talk to us. We could schedule meetings ahead of time, and people who are in the agriculture and water committee, that those would be really good to talk to. Senator Charles Perry from Lubbock, and our Democrat representatives who are from Dallas or other districts who are in the committee. So I think it's a fabulous idea to be able to just have a discussion uh, with some of the legislatures on Texas Water Day.
Definitely, you and I have a lot of tools at our disposal, from our work in water resources to measure, to catalog, to identify natural resources of water. And for me, that is one thing to have an audience, and then it's one thing to have a prepared and educated audience to get to work. And yes, water management is a technical skill. Leadership is a important skill, and every community is very unique, and our resources and the tools that are the best are different depending on the size of the municipality, on the size of the colonia, or on the size of the county, parish, whatever. But this is a universal language, so wherever we speak with, I think we can provide something useful, or at least something meaningful. But that's where I see it. I see it growing, and I see it being meaningful, because of our work. We put work into this, so that's what makes it meaningful, is that we do put in good effort.
Any tidbits on what's like you're gonna be doing rest of today?
Yes, for today, I got my mom a gift from Starbucks because she collects those cups. I got her a gift yesterday, and so this is a gift train. I'm gonna go to my uncle's. They're gonna have barbecue. Then we're gonna go to my mom's to go get dinner, give her a gift. My sister's gonna be there. She also a mom. And so that's my day. How's yours?
Yeah, so my mother-in-law is leaving to back to Dallas today because I mean we celebrate the Spanish one pretty hard, so I think that was pretty good. And then I called my mom and my sisters there in India, and had some talk about like just how it's going on, and got to see all my nieces, and the rest of today, I'm probably going to go to a coffee shop in Austin, and I have a MacBook now, so I'm gonna open it in fancy fashion in a coffee shop, and gonna just work a little bit. Um, and then towards the end, I might go to Barnet Springs again. So yeah.
So did your guests get in the water at Borden Springs? Because
Oh,
it's really cold.
yeah. It is very cold. Yeah, it is cold, and but it like for the first like 10 seconds, once you're in it, you just don't feel it. And a very interesting thing about Barnet Springs is that it's a like let's say it's a half a mile long stretch of the spring where people can swim on above the on the paid side. The water temperature actually changes in the whole like half a mile. So if you're like swimming on the upstream side, it's actually warm, and if you're swimming a little bit down, then it's super cold. So, and I think it stays cold during winters as well. And it's just so fascinating. I don't even know how that physics works, but it's really fascinating. And it stays kind of same temperature even if it's like really cold outside. I'm planning to like go someday on a 5 a.m. Um, and swim there because I think it's free between 5 and 8, as long as the city doesn't give me a parking ticket. So with that, that was episode 6, and thanks for joining.
Yeah, well, thank you, Sanjay. Have a good rest of your weekend, and I'll see you soon.